Guru Nation, how is it going, guys? Welcome back. Thank you so much for watching, listening, wherever you may be. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share. If you don't know what to comment, just put a robot emoji. It helps with the algorithm. Or just put any emoji you like pizza, alien, hamburger, doesn't matter. All right. We've got a very special guest, Tiffany Ashton. I told her she's welcome back anytime. She is the ultimate epitome of what a generalist can be in this industry. And not somebody who waited and sat around and said, well, I'm only going to upgrade my career when my manager tells me it's okay. You know, if you do that, you're going to be waiting till your manager retires and their manager comes in and retires. So that's not a good strategy, guys. So Tiffany, welcome back. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for coming on again.
All right. Thanks, Dan. Great to be back again.
You're welcome anytime. We could do these regularly. And I
Sure.
like the quintessentials behind you. Maybe start out with a little bit of that. Let's start with that first, because last time we ended with that. Let's start with this first, and then we'll work
All right.
backwards.
Okay, sounds good. Well, Clin Essentials, we provide tools and resources for clinical research professionals. So for the CRAs and the CRCs, we have it's pre-printed, color-coded audit notes. And these take the place of the yellow sticky notes that are used in the industry. It just helps with time and efficiency, maybe saving 25% of the study coordinator's time after the visit of like addressing the action items because they can quickly see what needs to be done. So we have 16 key phrases and they're all different colors. So when you see, let's just show you, when you see a source chart at the end of your visit, you can see a please reconcile, a please complete, a serious adverse event. You're going to focus in on that serious adverse event first because you can see what's going on
Yeah.
versus your yellow sticky note. There's nothing here, and you're like, I don't know where to begin. So that's our signature product. And then we also do training. So CTM training for those that are interested in either the
CTM
CTM world.
training. I
Yeah,
think you mentioned that last time. So is that up and running? Like, are you ready to go?
Yeah, we're ready to go. So on our website, when you go to the Clinical Research Professional CTM training, you get on the wait list for the next course. If we have enough people, we'll
Wow.
squeeze in one this year. If not, we'll do one next year. And it's a 28-day course. And there's instructor led and self-paced. And the instructor led, we go through scenarios. So how to review a change order, how to plan your investigators meeting. So really hands-on practical experience that if you were
Plan
thrown
an
into it,
investigator meeting.
how do
That
you do
sounds like
that?
a headaches. Headaches
it is
upon
a,
headaches.
it is a headache. It can be. And if you don't know to plan early enough, you can mess up the whole thing, unfortunately, or you
Wow.
are have a lot of extra cost at the end.
Is
So
that through
there's
Quintessentials? The
yeah.
this Okay.
So
Good.
yeah, so that and career coaching. If someone has questions and just wants to speak to a clinical research professional, like they're on a complicated protocol,
You
they
know
don't know
what's
where to go
missing?
with the career.
People
What?
keep asking me, and I don't think we have time to put this course together. We have a
Mhm.
few courses like lined up, none CTM, but it's like we teach people how to be CRCs, CRAs.
Mhm.
But what's missing is like somebody who teaches existing CRAs how to be more organized. I think that's right up your guys' alley. I mean, that's something
Yeah,
you guys should look into because I get asked that a lot, a lot.
exactly.
So I just can't pull
Yeah,
it off because I haven't been a CRA long enough. Um,
yeah.
and
That's a good
that's
one.
tough. That's tough. How to get there
Yeah.
used to be this guy named Daniel Reget, the CRA coach. I think
Uh-huh.
he got busy with work, but he used to have
Okay.
a course. So
Okay.
something
That's
for
good.
either you or somebody watching to consider. There's lots
Yeah.
of opportunities in this space, as
A
you'll learn
lot.
from Tiffany. All right, so guys, if you haven't seen her first part one, you need to go watch it. I'll
Mhm.
have a link underneath. She gives her background, everything. I'll summarize it for you. She basically kept leveling up her career, and we're going to get into the specifics how she did that because last time we just talked about it a little bit, just glossed over that she
Mhm.
did do that. We want to get
Mhm.
into how, because there's a coordinator out there watching, there's a
Mhm.
CRA out there watching, There's
Mhm.
a CTM out there watching. What do you do after CTM? I mean, what's next? What do you think is next?
You can do project manager, and that's the project manager that is over the CTM and just kind of looks at the portfolio level. You can be a associate director, director of clinical operations. You can keep going up, just
Mm.
depending on what your comfort level is and what you would like to do.
You go to the CEO of Pfizer. Somebody out there
Right.
watching is the next CEO of Pfizer. So look,
Or one of those pharmaceutical companies.
one of them. So we're gonna get into how. Okay, so you had experience. You were CRC, right? You got
Mhm,
in, if I remember correctly. You got in as a CRC. Well, actually, you got in like an assistant, and then you became a CRC. So from
mhm.
CRC, what was your next role after CRC?
So next one was CRA officially, but within that CRC bracket, I went to lead CRA. I mean, not lead CRA, lead CRC. So I'll break that
I
down of
see.
kind of like what you can do
Yeah.
as a study coordinator and just become a lead CRC, which helps your career progression for lead CRA or CRA in general.
Okay, let's talk about how to do that. Like if you're at a company, like a
Hmm.
site that's somewhat
Hmm.
organized and has
Yeah.
rules, because the sites I own and work at, there's no rules. It's just it creates an environment where if you want to do something, you can. No one's gonna stop you. That's the kind of sites
Yes.
I create. So there's two
Hmm.
different kind of sites. There's like UC San Francisco, where you
Yeah.
can't do anything unless somebody tells you to, and there's
Exactly.
like my kind of sites where you want to like do whatever you want, you can basically, as long as it makes sense for the studies and for us. So
Exactly.
which kind of organization were you at? Like which one is closer to where you were?
The do whatever you need to do, not
Okay.
the big institutions.
So
And
see,
that's
small is the
your
new big, right? You agree with
yeah,
me?
exactly. You have to be at the small because there's more flexibility. You can wear multiple hats, and that's the key. Even when you're interviewing, you want to just understand the layout. Is it one where it's a small team? Because if it's a small team, that's when you're going to get the most experience and you're going to get the most exposure. If
So,
it's a big team, very structured, you're not going to get that exposure because
right.
you're a study coordinator, you're regulatory, that's your lane, and stick to it.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah.
monitor I monitor I'm a contract CRA. Thankfully it's winding down. But for the last
Mhm,
5 years I've been monitoring small sites, and then I had one very big site. And
mhm,
the only difference, like the coordinators at the small sites, they're way more generalist than the coordinators at the big institutions. Those guys and gals, mostly gals in those
mhm,
places, they don't even know like half of the responsibilities that the same job title, study coordinator, is doing at your random mom and pop clinics all across the
mhm.
country. The only difference,
Yeah.
they have kombucha on tap, and then at the other place they don't. You have to make your own coffee. That's the main
Yeah.
difference. But that's not enough of a benefit for you
Mm-mm.
guys to, and the prestige. People think mistakenly that, well, it's much better for my career if I go coordinate with Harvard or
Mhm,
Stanford than with
mhm.
Mr. Sfera's site in Yuma, Yuma, Arizona. It's not. You're going to be able to do so much more at those smaller sites.
Exactly. Yeah. I've run into people at those bigger institutions and regulatory, like they don't even handle regulatory. And that's key, to being a study coordinator, at least to know what some of these documents are. And that's actually a hindrance because if you ever leave that big institution and go somewhere else, you're missing a big part of that CRC role. So if you are at those institutions, just know that you may have to supplement. You may not see the full picture. May only have a portion of it. And so that's why it's better to be at those smaller institutions because you can do everything. And that's what I did. I think I originally started. So I was the admin assistant, then I was the study coordinator. And we only had the director of like the research department and then one other study coordinator. So it was like two study coordinators and then the director. And we were wearing multiple hats. We were doing regulatory, we were doing, feasibility, we were doing closeouts because it was just a three-woman team at that point.
Hmm.
So we
Hmm.
were we were so small. But then after, as our studies grew, we added additional study coordinators, and then I became the lead CRC over all of the study coordinators
Nobody
that were
told you to
there.
do it. You just said, "I'm going to do it."
I just kind of, because I was already thinking I love the CRC role because I loved interacting with the patients. I loved them. They were all my grandmas and grandfathers and uncles and aunts. I love that. But I also knew that I really wanted to be a CRA eventually. I wanted to do that. And so I said, hey, how can I start getting those skills? So I was like, lead CRC. I was starting to like spot check my
Mm.
colleagues' work, like spot check mine, kind of really taking like, hey, I'm going to be the point person and then we'll triage issues, like really trying to take that leadership role. And I was able to because it was a smaller site. And they were like, yeah, take the initiative because we don't have the bandwidth to do that.
Basically, source data review, which any CRC can do on their
Mhm,
own. Even if you are your own CRC, there's nobody else in the company. You
mhm,
can one day, let's say Monday, the patient
mhm,
comes in, you do
mhm,
the source, you're
mhm,
done, you enter in the EDC. Tuesday for
mhm,
like an hour, you switch your hat, be a CRA, go through your own thing you did yesterday, but with a different
mhm.
frame, try to change your mindset a little as CRA and look at what you
Exactly.
missed. And you could put this on your resume. Guess what? For that, you don't need to ask anybody. You could be at UCLA doing this,
Yeah.
USC, UC San Francisco. You don't need to ask permission, right? But on your
Mhm.
CV, you can put that you did that. That's transferable skills, spot checking, source data review. Now they're going to look at your CV and be like, oh, you actually
Uh-huh.
know what it takes to be a CRA.
Exactly. Yep. I did the same thing. I would do it. We had Saturday clinics, heavy Saturday clinics, where we would bring in 12, 15 patients.
Wow.
So those, like we were throwing source documents over our shoulders, literally. So that Monday, Tuesday, following that Saturday clinic, I would make sure that I completed the source and then making sure that everything was filed and just organized. It was completed, but just organized. And then later in that week, I would go ahead and spot check to see, and I would find stuff. And then I would find stuff. We would make sure that we got what was needed, made sure we followed the alcohol principles. We couldn't backdate and all that kind of stuff, but at least I identified it. And then when our monitor came, we almost had spotless source because of that extra step. And so that also looks good on your site too.
Yeah. And you'll have a happy CRA who, by the way, we didn't even talk about, can be your gatekeeper to being a CRA. So
Hmm.
keep them
Exactly.
happy, guys. Um,
Exactly.
I'm curious because all this stuff we're talking about, somebody might be listening and
Hmm.
just think that's ridiculous. Like, why would I do that? I'm not paid for that. I'm paid to be a coordinator and they're not paying me that much anyway. So why am I doing all that? There's like different mentality. Why is it that you and others like you react a certain way and others don't? Like what do you think what do you think that boils down to?
I just think maybe it's just personality type. I mean, some people, yes, I've run into those people like, that's my job. I'm sticking to it and not doing anything extra. And that's fine. That's your prerogative. You can just do that. But
Right.
if you really want to push the bounds and keep going in the industry, you're going to have to get outside of that. That's my job and I'm just sticking to it. Because if you want to keep moving to the next level, you're going to always have to do that. And that's what I've shown in my career. And that's why I've been able to move over because even as a CTM, sometimes I have to roll up my sleeves and do CRA work even now, or CTA work. One time I had to create regulatory binders because we didn't have a team,
Hmm.
but I couldn't have said that wasn't my job. It had to be done. So there's going to be a ceiling at that point because you're not willing to be flexible. And if you want to keep going, you have to be flexible and you can't be so rigid. And
Hmm.
if you're okay with just being a CRC, that's fine. You can just stay in the CRC world. But if you really want to kind of progress, you got to be flexible and that can't come out your mouth. That's not what I don't want to
Luckily for
do.
us, most people watching are not in that camp. I would
Yeah,
say most
yes.
are in the like you. They have the ambition. They want to do
Hmm.
things. Many who watch they want to, but they're afraid. They don't want to step on toes. They don't want to
Yeah,
get fired if their boss thinks or their coworkers think they're trying to
yeah.
take their role. So
Hmm.
that's different. You didn't have to navigate that, I don't think, early on because you were at a smaller company, right?
Yeah. but I mean, I could see that. And it's, you want to phrase it like, hey, I'm helping you. Let's work together. Hey, do you need me to? I know you have a heavy clinic this week. Do you need me to help organize your drug cabinet, rearrange your supply cabinet? Like just anything like, hey, we're willing to help. As opposed to, now there's a stark difference. Hey, I did this, and you're looking for praise from someone, like your manager, like, oh
uh,
yeah, I rearranged all of this for this because this person,
yeah.
things were in a mess.
Hey,
And
boss,
you're
Tiffany
looking.
didn't do her job, so I did hers too.
Exactly. And then you're gonna piss people off because like you're doing but if you're saying, hey Dan, I know you're swamped this week. Can I help you? And then you're like, please do. You can help me with
Yeah, I
data
would say yes,
entry.
but then I might say like, yeah, Tiffany, that's awesome, but why? Why do you want to do it?
Yeah, you can say, hey, just say, hey, I want to get more exposure to data management. I haven't done many EDC, or I haven't worked in the metadata rave, or I haven't worked in Oracle.
Ah,
I haven't worked on Inform. Do you mind if I, train and learn? Because we can be each other's backup. Just as simple as that. As long as you're pure in your intentions and you say, hey, this is what I want to do, but don't go back and say, well, I did this for Dan
yeah.
because he was slacking, because then that's
Wow.
when people are going to say, hey, that wasn't cool. Like, I didn't know that was what your intention was.
Yeah, you
So
want to
I would
help
say
your
that.
coworkers. You want to help your coworker out as much as possible.
Yeah.
I like that. So I'm curious, before we move on now, how you transitioned
Hmm.
further. You were a 3-woman team, you said early on at the site. I'm just
Hmm.
curious, like, do you happen to know what those other 2 ladies are doing right now?
Yeah, actually, the director, I think she went back into consulting. So I think she is doing like contract CRA. I think that was the last kind of status there. And then the other person became a CRA too. Went through doing continued the study coordinator a little bit longer. And then she actually went and became a CTA at a CRO, and then as a CTA, she asked to be a CRA, and they trained her. So now she is a CRA as well. So CRA, and then like CTM. Like it just really depends. Some people love the travel, love the independence, don't like the stress of the CTM because there's a lot of things the CTM has
Mm,
to do that the CRA does not, and so some people just prefer that CRA space, and there's nothing wrong with that either.
yeah, that all 3 ambitious, all 3 generalists, all 3
Hmm.
started. This is important for people to hear from a small site, a
Mhm.
small, disorganized. Well, I mean,
Exactly.
initially, I'm not trying to like put you guys down,
Yeah,
but a
yeah.
small, disorganized site where
Mhm.
chaotic. This is where
Yeah,
in
chaotic.
chaos breeds solutions,
Mhm.
right? Or it just
Exactly.
breeds failure. I mean, one of the two. So that I find that
Yeah.
interesting. I think the industry needs like what's that group? Society of Clinical Research Society. Rest in peace, Christine Pierre. She started that,
Mhm.
but they do like all these internal studies. I think somebody needs to do that. But I think
Yeah.
they're afraid to do that. If they actually do a study on what helps your career, boost your career further, like
Mhm.
and they discover it's the smaller sites, the people who
Yeah.
work at smaller sites end up further.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a
Mhm.
problem for the industry because nobody's gonna want to work at the UCSFs anymore and all that
Exactly.
stuff.
It's true. It's
Maybe there's
true.
a
Yeah. So
reason they don't do that.
exactly, exactly. So that was kind of my study coordinator, and I did that 4 years while going to school. So San Diego State.
Wow.
So pursuing my
Aztecs,
bachelor's.
Aztecs.
Yeah, Aztecs. So yeah, did that, and then from the study coordinator role right at graduation, and this is so cool. I mean, literally, I was graduating on a Wednesday. Monday, I got a job. Monday of the graduation week, they were like, wow, we're looking for some CRAs and you have 4 years. And I was like, yep, and I have a degree in 2 days.
Wow. So
Yeah.
when you were doing all this stuff with the site, all right,
Hmm.
and still going to school, were
Hmm.
you disciplined about updating your CV every year, or were you just like too busy and you just put your CV out there and said, you know what, they're gonna see 4 years no matter what I put on the CV? Like, what was the strategy there?
So, we always had to update our CVs every 2 years for the regulatory binder. So I just, you took the last current one and then just made sure, gave it an overview. Does this have all my indications, all my, job descriptions, anything else? And then at that point that's when I actually sent it out right before graduation. Once I did a once over of, hey, does this look the best that it can look?
And back in those days, I think we're the same age, but back in those days, there was no LinkedIn really. Like,
No.
I mean, it was there, but no one really used it. So what was it like? Monster.com? I think it was the big one. Remember
No,
that?
yeah, Monster and Career Builder, but I didn't do either. I went with ClinForce at the time. They're now Docs Global, but the key
Ah,
too is to be with the agencies, the Barrington James, the Biophase Solutions, the ClinForces, the clinical research agencies, because they have jobs that you'll never find online because they do like business development with small pharmaceutical companies or different things like that. And we'll have a handful of jobs that they don't even post online because they give it to a recruiter, like a clinical research recruiter, and then they'll post to say, hey, we have an opening. So I got in contact with a ClinForce clinical research recruiter, and they were recruiting for, I think it was 20 CRC/CRAs at that time. And so it was like, come one, come all, one interview, and I was in. And I was like, wow, that was quick.
I remember those days because that's when I got started too.
Mhm.
Is that advice still applicable today? Like to go to
Yeah,
these agencies?
right now. All of those that you see on LinkedIn, and as they are, hey, we have an opening for 3 CRAs or 2 CRAs, one CTM, get on their list because when they have those lists that
Yeah.
kind of go out and mass blast, that's something that you can be a part of. You can hear some exclusive roles that you may not find anywhere. And then you check in with them every so often. Hey, I'm looking for my next role. Do you have any new CRA positions that I may qualify for? And then usually they'll say, send over your CV. Here's the specs on this. And then you go from there. Yeah, go ahead and submit me. And they can usually get you a fast track into a job really quickly, those recruiters. So that's one of a really good secret there.
Okay. Yeah. Shout out to Lindsay Summers, one of the best recruiters I know. And then the new guys from the UK, Huxley Martin. They recruit
Mhm.
all over US and UK. They're new, but James, cool founder. We were on each other's podcast. So I guess the agency, thank you. This is gonna be a classic episode, Tiffany, because we've never talked about any of this stuff before. We've danced
Yeah.
around it, but we never actually got into it, like exactly how you did it. So okay, lead CRC, chaotic site. Then you started spot checking. Then you were doing this while still in school. Then you
Mhm,
graduated, got a job the
mhm,
next day because of the agencies that you worked
mhm,
with or you put
mhm,
your resume with. Okay,
mhm.
so after that, CRA.
Yeah, so CRA 4 years, no, 3.5 years. And that there's another tidbit. That when you do with the agency, sometimes people are like, "Oh, that's a contract position," but I was W-2 contract, so I wasn't 1099 contract. I was W-2, so I wasn't a permanent employee, but I was on like a long term 12-month contract.
Right.
So that 12-month contract kept getting extended. I ended up being on that study 3.5 years. So just because you see a contract doesn't mean that it's going to be a short term. If you
Right.
perform well, you can stay long. So I was
Yeah.
on that study 3.5 years, all in all.
I think that's important to mention because a lot of people are like shy away from that. And I
Mhm,
think that's most of the new jobs now, like to be a new CRA, they'll put you on a contract because you have
mhm,
to think the company wants to reduce their liability. If you're not a good
mhm,
CRA, they don't want to deal with you more than 6 months, right? So it's clean. Yeah. Otherwise,
mhm,
it's difficult to fire. There's a lot of litigation potential, like just
mhm,
bad for the brand. So they keep it clean that way. But like Tiffany said, if you're doing a good job, they'll keep extending it, eventually roll you into their
mhm.
employee pool.
Yeah, yeah. So So that was how I got into the CRA role. And then now my next transition from CRA to CTM, what I did was small is the new big. When that contract was up, 3.5 years, I was done with being a CRA. We had successfully enrolled. I was good, nice clean cut there. I had availability. And that's when I was like, I want to get some project management skills because after those 3.5 years, I was like, ooh, I don't know about traveling so much anymore. And I was
Right.
like, I want to kind of scale down a little bit,
What was
with
it?
that.
What was it about traveling, if you don't mind sharing? Was it
Yeah.
changes in your personal life? Because
Hmm.
CRAs go through, it's important, for us to follow like the life cycle of a CRA.
Hmm.
So was it family? I know you have kids, but what was it, family at that time, or like what was it that made you say, well, I don't like this traveling anymore, or it doesn't work for me anymore?
And it definitely, you go from you're single and you can travel and, there, and then you get married, you start wanting to settle down, have kids, and you're like, ooh, how's this logistically going to work? I
25
can't.
days a month.
Exactly, and so that's usually the progression. And usually from CRA, they will go into CTM. And sometimes I've seen people would stay in the CTM space
Hmm.
for 10, 15 years until their kids are old. And then they'll go back to a CRA if they really enjoy being a CRA. And then you can be a CRA for years after that. So it just really depends kind of on
Is
your
is
family life.
the is the pay better as CRA versus CTM?
It can be comparable. I wouldn't say, I mean, at one CRO, and this was probably what the industry was, but I would say they were paying CRAs, let's just say 110 to 115, and they were paying the CTMs 140. So you won't, I
Okay.
mean, it's not like that much of a big difference, but this was years ago. I don't know if it's changed, but you
Yeah.
can really kind of see they say, well, you're not traveling, so you're not going to be paid as much as if you were on the road. So you can get very close. Sometimes CRAs can get paid more if you're a contract CRA and you're billing per hour than CTMs. It
Yes.
just really depends.
Contract series for sure. That what you just explained kind of summarizes the problem with the industry, because
Hmm.
this is why there's always a CRA shortage, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
CRAs, they hire them generally when they're young. I mean,
Hmm.
there's no ageism. That's
No.
another tough question I gotta ask you. There's no layups on this show. Is
Yeah.
I get asked this question like once a week. Okay, I'm 50 years old. Am I too old to be a CRA?
Nope. If you can do it, if you want to do it, and if you can do it, do it.
Hmm.
There's no you if you have the skills, you can do it until you literally do not want to get on a plane anymore. And that would be your choice. But there will always be experience over anything. Like if you have the years experience, they're gonna take you. And if you're like, hey, I want to be a CRA, and yeah, go for it.
Yeah, yeah,
There's no upper age cutoff. It would be you saying, I physically do not want to get on the plane anymore. I'm just too tired to do it myself. I don't want to do
right,
it anymore. Yeah.
right. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
been the industry's. They get this. Generally, the series come in like you younger.
Hmm.
Then you grow. You start having families, and then travel
Hmm.
becomes less of a priority for you. You don't want to
Hmm.
travel anymore. So
Yeah.
then now but they still need people to fill those spots over there. So this is
Exactly.
why the industry's always has turnover. This is why we always need new people in the industry. And this is why the
Hmm.
industry, I think, is trying to push technology. I think
Hmm.
like if the industry's wish list is that technology can replace the CRAs, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. And at least in the next
No.
2 decades, that's not happening.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, of course, you want to be efficient as much as you can, but there's still some critical thinking skills that you need with the CRAs that technology is not going to be able to do. Like sometimes you see something, you need to go open a cabinet and look over here and move to this room. Like you need to be like, whoa, 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 follow what's going on here. Like you got to
Yeah.
follow the train, and the technology is not going to do it in that sense.
So this is okay. It's getting good. So we only have a little bit of time left. So you were CRA. What point in your 3 years as a CRA did you start thinking, okay, I need to think about my next move? Was it right away or like a year? When?
No, it was probably towards the end when they said, okay, we're not going to renew for another another 12 months. We're going to renew for another 6 months. So I knew my contract was coming to an end. And at that point, that's when you want to start making preparations for what you're going to do next. And then I just asked myself, I was like, do I want to be a CRA? Do I want to be what's next? What else could I do with my skill set? And that's what I had to do. I had to ask myself, what else can I do with my skill set? And I was like, well, the project manager, CTM sounds good. And what I did was I started looking around, and you always want to be ahead of the game if you can. Like, don't wait until the last week and then you need a job by next Monday. Like, start ahead because you have the time to interview, see what is going to be a good fit. And that's what I did. And so I found a small biotech company in San Diego at the time. And they had an opening for an in-house CRA. And that one, the in-house CRA, that position, they said you may have to travel about 25% of the time. And I was like, okay, that's enough. That's not like, 50 to 75%.
Yeah.
And then it was like, it has CTM duties. That was in the job description. Help write protocols, help give vendor oversight. And I said, okay, well now this is good. It's giving me some exposure to the CTM project management. So I went out for that. That was actually, it was a small team, another 17 people in the whole clinical division. And that was including the director of clinical research, the assistant director, DM, medical monitor, only 17 people. So there was a lot of sharing different hats and learning from others because we were literally sitting in the same conference room all together, from the medical monitor all the way down to the ETMF specialist or the TMF specialist at that time.
So it's basically a replay of the site scenario, just at a biotech.
Yeah, a replay. And so they assigned me as the CRA to a phase 4 study with the project manager. And I was like her right hand. And so like meeting minutes, I was helping draft, and then I was sending it to her for review. I would finalize them, send them out. When we were sitting in finance meetings, I was sitting in there with her because we were like right hands. So I knew everything she knew, and she actually went out on an emergency leave. And then they were like, what's going to happen to this study? And I was like, now I know some things, but I don't know everything, so I was up front. I didn't come. See, again, you can't stab the people in the back, because what if she came back and I was like, oh yeah, I know this whole study.
So you were careful. You were careful not to say, hey, I know everything she does. You really don't need her, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Because you never know if somebody's going to come back. So you can't do that. You can't, you have to be a team player. So I was like, hey, I know a couple of things because I sat in with her, but I'm honest, I don't know this. And they were like, well, no problem. We can work with you on this, or you can work with another CTM on this. And I was like, okay. And so I was able to kind of fill in the gap while she was gone. And then she did come back. See, that's why you got to be careful. She did come back. And so we worked together again. But then when it came to a new study being started up, and this new study was it was just like a really easy study. They were like, we need an extra CPM before we hire a new one. Do you think you want to do it? And I was like, well, yeah, let me see, and that was the opportunity. So working outside the box, working as a team player, showing you are a team player, learning all you can, absorbing, even if you're in meetings that don't apply to you. Just kind of observe what's going on. Don't just be like, oh, that's not my role, and just kind of go off in space, observe, because you never know when there's an opportunity.
So again, the theme is like chaos that you leveraged into order, basically.
Yep. Exactly.
While maintaining good relationship with those around you. Because I see a lot of the similarities. So at the site, you had the chaos, you fixed it, then you graduated. CRA, chaos with family, because you're starting a family. Fixed it. Everything is a response to chaos. Now, which is, I think, quite telling for most people if they think of it that way. When you went from CRA to in-house CRA, Did you have to take a pay cut?
Mm. No, I don't think I did. I actually had the same because back in the day, this was back in the day. They used to ask you what was your last salary and what you were
Mm.
looking to make. This was back in the day. I haven't seen that now that I think about it, I haven't seen that.
I don't think they do that now.
I don't think they do that now. But they asked me what was my last salary and what was I looking to make at the new position, and I just told them, and so they matched it or
Ah, I
gave
see.
they matched it. They matched it, but then I got PTO and all the things because I was like more with a company versus a contractor. So,
Okay.
that's what, but they matched it that at that point. So I did not take a pay cut. And now this is one thing. I think they only raised me like $6,000 though when I went to a full blown CTM because I
Mm.
was still learning. I was still new. I couldn't really demand a full CTM price. So I just had to just say, okay, thank you, and
But
go
that's
from
still
there.
good. That's still good.
It's still good.
Would you have still done that even if they paid you less is the real question.
Yeah. I mean, I would if they had just left it the same. I would have, like if they had left me at the in-house rate, I would have done it too
Yeah.
because the experience, you can't beat that experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think some people struggle because they're like, okay, I could see the opportunity there, but it's actually a less pay, but it's way
Hmm.
more like it's clearly better long term, but short
Hmm.
term, it's like gonna be a problem. So you have to balance that too in careers. It's not
Yeah.
simple. It's not a one answer for everybody.
No, it really depends on what would work for you. But if you can see the bigger picture, of if you're, hey, I'm going to be able to get off the road, I have a stable job, I'm off the road, I'm getting additional experience, and maybe it's uncomfortable for the next 6 months to a year, but after that I can get a higher paying job. Then that's something everyone has to kind of just weigh if it would work for them.
So how far along into the story are we now? Because we kind of went very specific, some of the
Hmm.
challenges. See, now you got the CTM role.
Hmm.
What was next? Like, what were you looking at next?
I just then after that, that was my entry into CTM, and I did CTM for the next 10 years.
Like as a contractor or same company?
As a contractor.
I
Yeah,
see.
not the same. Now they actually that company, that biotech. Remember I said that we had 17 in the clinical department, and they got bought out, and then they decreased it down to like 9.
Mm.
That was a tough day when they were literally firing people on that day.
That's the thing
So it
with
was
biotechs, man. The
yeah.
biotechs, like they're so innovative. They could be fun places to work. And then a
Hmm.
company like AbbVie comes in,
Hmm.
buys it out, changes everything. It's no longer
Hmm.
fun, right? Because the
Exactly.
leadership's not the same. Leadership at a biotech is like, we need to go from nothing to something. So they're
Hmm.
a whole different mentality. Leadership at a AbbVie, or I'm not picking on AbbVie, Janssen and
Hmm.
Janssen, is
Hmm.
let's not screw up what we have. We're already
Exactly.
huge. Let's just stay
Exactly.
this way. So it's totally different culture. I'm glad you brought that up too. So contract CTM, how does that work? Are you able to
Same.
do like a lot of different studies at once, or you just do one at a time?
It just depends. So this is where you go back to your recruiters, your clinical research recruiters. Hey, what do you have? Open
You
it
just
up.
call them.
You call them up and say, hey, what do you have? They'll say, I have a 40-hour a week. I have a 10-hour a week. I have a 20-hour a week. I have a 40-hour
Wow.
for 3 months. I have a closeout only. And that's the thing. There's a lot that you can glean from recruiters that you can't glean from those generic postings just on the website. So that's the secret. You got to have your recruiters, at least a couple of them, because
They'll
they
give
are
you the
going to be able
inside
to tell
scoop.
you. They'll be able to say 1 interview, 2 interviews, hire. They're looking for someone to um,
Yeah.
start in 2 weeks. They can give you all this inside scoop that you cannot glean from the generic website, and
They
you
would
just
never
apply
post
here.
that. Yeah, they
Yeah,
would
you
never.
just apply, and then what happens there? You don't hear back because these people, they can follow up for you. They can say, "Oh, I submitted your resume. It's in front of the hiring manager." They can give you all these updates. Now they do get a portion, depending on how it's set up. They will either get a finder's fee from the company They get a finder's fee. They either get a portion of your salary. That so they do get something out of the deal. But it's really good to just have that person that you can say, "Hey, Dan, what's the status?" And they're like, "Hey, this is what it is," or "No, they didn't pick you because of this," and that's good too. So you can know that.
Yeah.
So the one thing that I will say about recruiters, I have not seen one yet necessarily that works with naive people, like people that want to get into the industry. I haven't seen one yet. There may be one out there, but you usually have to be a study coordinator and looking to go to a CRA, or a CRA looking to go to the CTM. They have to be able to work with something. They are not able to work with nothing. Like you have
Yeah.
to be in the industry already.
It
So I
makes
will
sense.
say that. Yeah.
It
Yeah,
makes
I
sense
would say
because
that.
the why would a sponsor hire a recruiter to recruit somebody with zero experience? They can do that themselves.
Exactly. Yeah. So just, I did want to say to the community watching, if you're naive, you're still going to have to either, take the CRC Academy,
Yes,
Dan's
CRC
Academy.
Academy.
Yes, or come over to Clint Essentials for a consult call to see which way you can be able to leverage. And we actually have a quick course that's coming out. It's a intro to clinical research, like how to get in, how to leverage what they currently have. It also includes a GCP course that they can take, add to their CV, and a resume review. So that be on the lookout. That's dropping in December
Yeah,
for those that are brand
Clint
new.
Essentials is a company that just like came out of nowhere on my radar,
Hmm.
mainly because of Brent. Shout out to Brent Ellis.
Yeah, Brent Ellis.
He's the one who's like putting all these interviews together. Now Tiffany reaches out directly, but Brent is like running everything back there. So I gotta look more into Clint Essentials. Like, who
Mhm.
are you? Founder, director? Like, what is your role? Who's behind this?
So I'm the director of operations, and it was a group of clinical research professionals. So there's
I
not just
see.
one that can take the credit. But right now, I'm the director of operations, and that's just because I have so much experience in so many areas that I can really help, with the products developed or anything like that, the training,
I
those things,
gotcha.
just because I've touched a little piece of each different role.
So
And
the
so if we
sticky
have to,
notes and all that,
mhm,
that's a smart business strategy because that's not necessarily the business. That's
mhm,
more like putting your brand out there in as
mhm,
many sites as possible for the all the other
mhm,
stuff you guys have. It's a good
yeah,
business model you guys have.
mhm,
I know you only got like 3 minutes. This is gonna be a I
mhm.
think this is gonna be a classic. Guru Nation, let us know. Is this a
Let us know.
classic or not? Anything else we missed? Like detail. Just imagine somebody's watching right now in Phoenix, Arizona, and is a
Mhm.
CRA for 2 years, and they think that they're at a dead end.
The time is now. I have never seen it this crazy. If you want to be a CTM, if you want to be in a role that you haven't been in before, and you can tell or show or speak to in an interview how your skills transfer, 9 times out of 10, they're going to give you a chance because there's such a shortage in the industry. This is your
Mhm.
time to try to run through that door, get in, learn all you can, because the industry may switch in a couple years, and it's not as one come all, as open arm
Yeah.
for all anyone that wants to get in a couple years. It may not be this is the time now to do whatever you want to do. Now is the time.
You and I are old enough. I can't believe I'm saying I'm old now because I remember getting started. I was so young. People were like, "How old are you?" When I was on the phone because my voice was so different. We've seen the ups and
Yeah.
downs, and we know we're
Hmm.
back at another up, but we know what's
Hmm.
right behind the corner.
It's a slam door, and everyone, it's like you got to have 3 years experience, you got to have oncology experience, and you're like, how did I get all this experience? But now, if you even want to do oncology, for some companies, they'll say, okay, we'll take a chance. So this is the time to capitalize on this opportunity, because in 2 years it could be different, and you'll be like, wow, I saw so many openings back in 2021, and I should have got in, because it could be so different in a couple years.
Yeah, as we last minute, Tiffany, to get to know Tiffany, the person, okay. You seem like an intrapreneur, meaning you are an entrepreneur mindset within a company, But now
Mhm,
with Essentials, maybe you're getting to use some of that entrepreneur muscle more.
mhm,
Would
mhm,
you ever, because a lot of CRA, a lot of CTM, I
mhm,
have these calls twice a week, 3 times a week with a CRA or CTM that wants to open a site. You ever
mhm.
considered this? You worked at a site. Is this something that's on your radar? You must have thought about it.
Yeah, I mean, I if I could find the right investigator that's motivated and study coordinator we can find, but a good investigator that's motivated, I would. I
That's the
would.
whole business plan.
Yeah. It's the
Is the PI.
investigator. Get him
Yeah,
on board and then get a good study coordinator. Yeah, I would.
you would do.
Definitely.
I got
And I would do it in the African American and Hispanic community because
Yes.
that's my what I grew up in. I got my master's in clinical research. Oh, I didn't go into that. That's another segment. Master's in clinical research, and I did my thesis on how to get more African Americans into clinical research. So that's another segment we'll have to go into.
Huge.
But
The next
yeah,
decade will be all about diversity in research.
exactly. So that's the reason why I would really focus in on in that patient population.
All right, Tiffany. Well, thank you. It's 10 on the dot.
Thank you.
Exactly. We got to wrap it up. I will put Tiffany's LinkedIn profile underneath. I'll also put the part one video so you could watch like more of her story. And we'll do it again. Come on anytime,
Yeah.
Tiffany. Like maybe
Okay.
next year, like January, whenever you want.
Yeah.
Just reach out.
All right.
We'll do another
Okay.
podcast. All right. Thank you,
All
Guru
right.
Nation. Thank you for watching, listening. Thank you, Tiffany. And we'll catch y'all later. Bye bye.
All right.